doesn't get you hyped, I don't know what does. I swear, I want to start watching Raiders football and Espanol just because of our guest play calling there. Of course, if you don't know, that's Harry Ruiz. He is the voice of Raider Nation Nacion Deportes. He's going to give you the exact name. Raider Nation Radio is what it is. Our drinking game alert tonight is Nacion. Every time we say it, if you are old of age, drink, toke, or twerk. Wow, I don't know. We're gonna play a few of his play calls throughout because I just find it so I find it so exhilarating and so exciting. But before we introduce our special guest, we are gonna be in the rest of the cast. Mother Moon, Cold Raider, Omar, what's good, yo?
What's going on, y'all?
What's going on? Did everybody hear that?
Go Nation. Let's go Nation.
Nacion. Did I spell that right? Did I spell that correctly? Remember, if you haven't already, like that torch, hit that like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't, and you can become a member and share this video. Yeah, we're excited about our guest tonight. We are going to do a season recap with him. I mean, we're all fans of the game, of course, so we've all seen every game, but calling a game, I'm sure, is very different. I mean, you've got to be into the game, know every detail, know every position, know every number, know every player's name, opposing players, as well as our own players. I think that's a lot to know, and seeing it through his eyes is probably a very different view than we see it as fans, or as Omar would probably say, couch GM. So it's going to be a fun, entertaining show tonight. Before we bring him in, let's say what's up to a couple people in the chat. What is up, Speedy Raider, Sonny Boyd, Rachel Brown, Fishing Game, Andrew. What's up, everyone? What's up? And we are going to bring him in, but these are his words. I'm just going to read it as I was saying it, but these are actually his words. He's passionate about sports since he was a kid, so doing what he does for a living is a dream come true, and that's something he'll never take for granted. He's been in the sports industry for over 10 years, starting off with jobs at TV, radio, and now working hard with the USL soccer team in Las Vegas. Are you still doing that? I don't know how old this quote is, but it's Lights FC, and of course, he's working with the Raiders as well. He proclaims himself as a one-man band. He depends on himself for everything: recording, producing, writing, editing, and most importantly, something you can't train: personality and on-camera presence. What is good, my friend?
What's up, Spicy? How you doing? Great to be out here with you guys. Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to hire you as my hype girl and be like, hey, everywhere I go, I need Spicy to introduce me because that was pretty good. And what's up, Raider Nation? It's great being out here with you guys.
Welcome. And everything Spicy said, but you also have to be on your game, whether you feel, if you're not well, whatever, you have to bring your game and you do it. And we appreciate you.
Heck, this past season, I actually had to call in sick for the Steelers game. I got sick the day before. I lost my voice, and that's the one thing I need to call the games, my voice. And if I can't talk, I'm screwed. So fortunately, it's back. I'm good. I was able to close the season, even though we weren't able to win any of those last two games. It was still fun to hang out with my Raider Nation brothers and sisters out there at the Tailgate Allegiant.
Most definitely. I would assume. I don't know if you do. I know singers do this, but do you carry around honey by chance? Honey.
So I actually.
Chords, or what's your trick?
So I actually started doing that last year. The Golden Knights Spanish play-by-play announcer, Jesus Lopez, he told me, and he's like, hey, man, I do this. I would recommend you to do it. And I was like, you know what? It can't hurt. And I started doing it, and it was like, hey, it is relaxing. And when I got sick on Christmas Eve, I never drink hot drinks. But since then, everybody was like, hey, man, hot water, lemon, honey, you're going to love it. Now I'm addicted to it. So
I never miss another game.
Hopefully so, Mama Moon.
The season, yeah, hopefully never. Because because we love having you. The amount of Spanish I can speak is mucho pequeño, but I just like mucho. Yeah, see, they y'all don't even know. But I just say nada. I just like watching you because it's such a vibe. It's so much energy. Like, you make it so much more exciting, in my opinion. So Thank you for your energy that you bring. And like I said in the intro a little bit, we watch as fans, but you really watch every detail of the play, every detail of every game. You have to know the ins and outs and all these types of things. Um, Two-part question, I guess, is how do you prepare for all of that? And after, well, we'll start there. How do you prepare for all of that, game after game after game?
So it's pretty much once the off season starts and you get the roster for the Raiders, it's going from 1 through 90 when the off season starts, and see who's back, who's coming in, getting to know the players. And fortunately, this past season, I got access to all the practice sessions that were open to the media. So being able to go to every training camp session and being able to see, for example, Antonio Pierce, he's an incredible coach, the linebackers coach. Seeing him interact with all the young linebackers that the Raiders had, that at the end of the season they were seeing a lot of action, was super. He's super engaging and he gets into it with his players. He's always sure that the young guys are watching, even if they're not on the field, to understand what's going on. So getting to know that aspect. And then once the regular season started, getting access to the locker room, being able to interview the players in there and get some one-on-one conversations and getting to know them a little bit more. That's always great. But like, to answer your question, week to week, if it's preseason, if it's regular season, we get game notes from both public relations departments from the Raiders and their opponents, usually on Tuesday afternoon. And it's a package that has 100 pages of information from both squads. So it's soaking in as much as you can. By Wednesday night or Thursday morning, we get a flip card where I'll try to show you guys one of them. I fill it up with information from every player that has stats, that has done big things, that has sacks, that has touchdowns, that has receptions, all the leaders of every statistical category, and just have all that information in hand in case one guy gets his first interception, being able to say that's his first interception of the season. Or if I know he's a rookie and it's his first touchdown pass, include that information. Or heck, that New England game stopped the streak of like 34 straight goal-to-go situations for the Raiders where they had surrendered a touchdown. When they didn't allow the touchdown, I was able to say it's been 34 possessions. The last time the Raiders stopped an opponent to not score a touchdown in the goal-to-go situation was, and then I had the date, I had the opponent, and I had it already. I'm like, it's always be ready for anything that happens into a game. So people think that it's just going in on Sundays in the booth and calling the game that's going on the field, or on the road games that I do it off a monitor in a studio out here in Vegas. I get Sundays, it's the fun day. It's the day that I get to enjoy and see what goes on the field. I get paid for everything I do during the week to get ready for the game.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm glad that you said that, because, there's much appreciation to you and what goes on behind the scenes, because people that think that it kind of blows my mind, because of course there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes in the weeks leading into it. But what makes a talent like you so great is you make it look like it's that easy, and you just walk into the booth and perform, if you will. So shout out to you. I've got another part to the question, but before we get there, I want to say, what's up, Lisa? Thank you so much. She just became a member of the channel. Thank you.
Hey, that's my comadre right there, Lisa TG Boy and Frank TG Boy with the Oakland Fire Department. Shout out to them. Shout out to Rachel. Rachel, you know I love you. Off the hook. You're the best. And all the J Squad crew out there. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much.
Aw,
yeah. Thank you. Thank you to Oakland Fire Department. Thank you all for your service, for putting your lives on the line. We appreciate you, and thank you for tuning in. So when you get all this information, one might think you're an encyclopedia of knowledge, and maybe you are. Or do you operate like you know what's happening for the week, and then you kind of flush that out and move on to next week? Or do you retain all of this knowledge and information moving forward?
So I'm very lucky that I get to call the Raider games, because that means I'm watching this team all the way from preseason to week 18. So when Jarrett Stidham becomes the starting quarterback for the Raiders, I know I called him playing 4 preseason games, including the Hall of Fame game, and what he did in those games and how he managed the game. And the Raiders didn't have any turnovers in the preseason, and that they took care of the ball, and that they were pretty clean in penalties. So I get to call one team every single week, and what better? It's the team I grew up rooting for. And even before the Raiders moved to Vegas, I used to go to Oakland to the games, and I knew all the players on the roster. And now it's like it's just keeps on rolling. So once the opponent that the Raiders played, the game ends, I flush that out, but I keep all the stuff from the Raiders and just keep building and building and building and building.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Fair
now,
enough,
are you able to go to the practices during the week?
Yeah, so I get access to it. I usually was going on Wednesdays to get my interviews in the locker room, and when we had access to go record, they only let us record warm-ups, which is like the stretching period and everything, and then individual periods, and then they kick us out. So we don't get to stay the whole time. But when it's training camp, we were there the whole time from beginning to end, which was pretty cool to watch.
Oh, that's so
Nice,
good.
nice.
That's so good to hear. And you talk about let me just ask one more question, if you don't mind. You talk about the locker room. Are you there after the game as well? And are you? Yeah, go ahead and answer that.
So, sorry. After the games, I have a 1-hour post-game show on the radio, so I have to be upstairs in the booth and be on the air for an hour. And we get the press conference from Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr, and then towards the end of the season, Jarrett Stidham, and I'm actually translating it live as it's happening. I'm hearing it in English, and then on the microphone, I'm talking what I'm saying, what they're saying, but in Spanish for our broadcast crew. So after the game, I can't go into the locker room like the rest of my media colleagues that they do. I just listen to the press conference through the headphones.
Oh, good to know.
But I do get in the locker room after practices, and they're actually pretty cool, and we can be there for like 30-40 minutes. And usually any player that you approach, they're cool with talking, except Chandler Jones, who he says only on Fridays. So folks that go to the locker room on Fridays, they can interview him.
Okay.
All right.
But he's a cool dude.
Of course. We really want to get into the season recap with you, of course. Pick your brain. But before we get into that, Cold Raider or Omar, do you have any questions for Harry specifically that you want to know a little bit more behind the scenes about, like what he does? Go ahead.
I want to go back to the beginning. I mean, especially being a Raider fan, I sit back on my couch and I only can imagine if I was broadcasting, you know, the array of emotions watching the game, especially, like I say, you're rooting, something goes bad, and, you know, you have to be professional. you can't say,
Yeah.
you really want to say, how long did it take for you to get that down pat? To just kind of, you know, you feeling some kind of way, but you shift that gear real quick.
So, Omar, the cool thing is I do the broadcast for the Raiders. So I'm broadcasting for Raider fans. So if I get too excited, like in the highlight that Spicy played right now in the Patriots game, nobody's going to complain. Everybody's like, he's super hyped. He's super excited because the Raiders scored. The Raiders won the game on a walk-off, and nobody expected it. Nobody's complaining. When the Raiders get scored on or something like that happens, of course I'm not going to get a big touchdown call or something. I'm going to tell you, it's like, hey, there you go. He caught it, touchdown. They took the lead, whatever. But I'm not getting high, and of course I'm not going to be like I used to be at the Black Hole and used to be screaming stuff I can't scream on the radio, and I'm like, I got to be professional and cordial. So it's been
R-rated show. Can you do an R-rated show so you can drop F-bombs? Because I would need to do that. Like, hey, this show ain't
so hey, it would be like the alternate broadcast with Snoop Dogg and all the stuff that he says, and it's like it would be interesting to do, but I would be out of a job in a week.
We need like
probably within an hour.
Yeah.
So
No,
since day one.
Go ahead.
So since day one, have you ever slipped up and said a bad word?
Nah, I'm very professional about that. And I even have like a podcast on Tuesdays during the season that we compete with the ladies out here. And my broadcast partners on the podcast, shout out to Ricardo and Demian, every once in a while they'll say a curse word. I never do it because I've been doing TV since 2008, radio since 2007. So I'm just used to, like, I can't curse. Do I curse in my life?
Maybe.
Yes. If I'm with my buddies, I do. I got no problem with saying I do. But when there's a microphone near me, I always keep it professional.
Got a great filter then.
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
A whole lot of discipline, man.
I'm just, like I say, in my opinion, that'd be the toughest part about your job is, I love the Raiders, and I see, you see some just bad plays. You see them do some bonehead things, and to be able to just filter that and talk through it in a better fashion than what I would want to say, man. Good stuff. Yeah.
And you know what? I can say I'm lucky that I was able to do this before calling Raider games. I used to call college football in El Paso, Texas, with the University of Texas El Paso. They're D1. They're in Conference USA. I got lucky to go to places like the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, Wisconsin, a lot of cool places in college football, and got to experience calling football games without me rooting for a team. I had never lived in El Paso. I didn't root for the Miners. By the end of my time there, I wanted them to win. And of course, I got to meet guys like Aaron Jones, the running back for the Green Bay Packers. I called his first college game. Roy Robertson Harris, who had a sack against Justin Herbert this past Saturday, who plays for the Jaguars. I got to meet a lot of guys, Will Hernandez, an offensive lineman for the Arizona Cardinals. You start liking the team and you want them to win. But I never had this that I have with the Raiders, where I started rooting for them as I was growing up. So once I got this opportunity, I'm like, oh, damn, I'm going to be calling the games for my favorite teams. And it's been simply, like Mother Moon said, a dream come true.
Dream come true.
Nice.
We love that, and we love to see dreams come true. I think you're such a special person. It's an interesting word to use because I don't really use that word that often. But when I think of you, I do think of special because not only are you very talented at what you do, but you're also out there mingling with the fans, and you're very personable, and you're taking your photos, and all these types of things, and you're very rare in a good way, I think. And I think the Raider Nation is very blessed to have you.
Now, I'm blessed to be able to call all my Raider Nation brothers and sisters family, because that's what it is. I remember going to Oakland and people would call me crazy because I would fly in by myself, fly out by myself, and just go and stay in a hotel room the night before, walk to the Coliseum, and walking by myself with my ice chest, which used to be my luggage that I used to check at every flight. And people are like, why do you go by yourself? I'm like, man, I get there by myself, but the moment I cross the bridge and get to the Coliseum,
you're never by yourself.
I'm like, I got thousands of people that I've been able to meet because of the Raiders, and that's the vehicle that gets us all together. This team, they might not be winning every single game, or they might only have 2 winning seasons in the past few decades, but heck, whenever we get together, it doesn't matter which stadium it is, you just see somebody with silver and black and you yell, Raiders! And it's just like, hey, you don't know them yet?
Raiders,
but you got that in common, and that's the best part for me, the camaraderie. And we're not supposed, media isn't supposed to go into the stadium until 4 hours before the game. I get there 5 hours before the game, and fortunately, security has let me go in. I set up my equipment, and then I go out to the tailgates once they open the gates for tailgating. And I just walk around and hang out with people, some that I've known for years, some that I just meet at the stadium whenever I'm there, and some that I've been able to meet through this past season. And at the beginning of the season, I might have been taking a picture of them to post on La Nacion Raider. And at other times, it's just been like, after that picture, it just became a friendship where it's like, oh, here's the guy with the suit. And at the beginning, maybe they didn't know who I was, but fortunately, the Raiders, they've been posting some of the highlights, and then it was like, oh, now we know what he does.
Right. Yeah, we love that so much. We're going to get into we of course, we want to spend as much time getting to know you as possible. We are going to get into some of your favorite moments here. Is there anything else you want our viewers to know about you and about what you do, where to find you, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll get into the talk about football a little bit.
Yeah, so I created La Nacion Raider.
Drink.
Right there. Cheers. I created that when I found out that I was going to be doing the Spanish radio broadcast. And I was like, I don't want to just be the guy that on Sunday talks about football. I want to be talking about football every day of the week. And to this day, the Raiders don't have social media in Spanish. And me being Latino, I know how many fans that are Raider fans that are Latinos are out there in LA, in the Bay Area, in Mexico, South America, Europe. There's people that when I'm streaming, it's 4 a.m. in Spain and they're watching our stream live because they want to hear information in Spanish about the team. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to create something. And fortunately, I found La Nacion Raider on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. So I just got all of them and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do my best I can to generate content for them, for people who, in my opinion, until recently, they're underserved, that they are not getting enough information in Spanish about the team. And I live here in Vegas. Now I have access to practices. Every time I go to a practice, I record a report in Spanish and try to serve all my Spanish-speaking Raider Nation brothers and sisters the best way that I can.
I'm going to give it up to you. You know, my dad's passed, but if he was around when you were doing this, he would be listening to you day in and day out. So all those people that are out there that now can listen to you and appreciate the game, as you call it, thank you. You know,
and I've gotten that a lot at the tailgate, Mother Moon, and I've got people who's like, hey, can I take a picture with you? I want to send it to my dad because he listens to the games every weekend in Spanish on, I think it's 980 or 880 a.m. in Los Angeles, or people that come in from Mexico City to watch the game, and it's like, hey, man, we watch your streams every Tuesday, and I had a radio show on Fridays, and I had people come into the restaurant where I was doing it at and saying, it's like, I just flew in and I always listen to your radio show on Fridays and I wanted to be here to support. I'm like, damn, you can be doing anything in Vegas and you're out here with me at a Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm like, and they're like, dude, we listen to you. We want to be here. We want to take a picture with you. And I put them on the air. I'm like, hey, tell me your story. Talk to me about the fans in Mexico, what you guys are up to and all that kind of stuff. So it's just me being a Latino. I know what it feels to sometimes have people look over you and say, it's like, they speak some English too. I'm like, hey, there's people who don't. There's people who prefer getting stuff in Spanish. So if I can, until the day I can't, I'll keep doing stuff out here in La Nacion Raider. And then if you want to show love on my personal social media, at Harry Ruiz on Twitter, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram. I post some stuff out there and appreciate all the love, Raider Nation.
On it.
You're on YouTube as well. Harry Ruiz on YouTube. So subscribe to the channel. We're gonna get into some football talk here, unless anyone else had any questions for him. Of course, you can ask questions to him anytime throughout this telecast. But let's go into another one of his calls before we get into some of the favorite moments, if you will, of this season. Some of the memorable moments. We'll say memorable. I don't know how many favorite moments there are. It's been kind of a crazy season. Maybe you have a different opinion on that, but we'll say some of the memorable moments here. But we do want to look at another one of your calls because, like I said, you're just much fun to watch and to listen to. Actually, to listen to, but I mean to watch as well.
Let's go.
Wow, that is such a. I would imagine that's one of your memorable moments. I remember watching that actually after it happened. Do you want to speak on that moment at all?
It's the same situation with the Chandler Jones touchdown. I wasn't expecting Josh Jacobs to ever break out an 86-yard touchdown run in that exact moment, and it happened. And that's the beauty of sports, that you never know what's going to happen next. Anything can happen, and the Raiders were able to, in a season where we only got 6 wins, 3 of them were by walk-offs, and I got to call all 3 of them, and it was just a blessing. And here's a story you guys might not know. So I was doing quarters 1 and 3 since 2021, and then 2022 up to the Broncos game. My broadcast partner went to the World Cup in Qatar, and because he wasn't here, I got to call all 4 quarters of the Broncos game that ended with the Devontae Adams walk-off touchdown, this Seahawks game against, well, the Seahawks game where Josh Jacobs got that 86-yard touchdown run, and then the Chargers game at Allegiant that the Raiders won as well. And then after that, it was just like, hey, you know what? Just do the 4 quarters. And then it was a huge blessing because I got to do the Patriots game as well, and I got to do that call too. But it's just spicy. It's all about preparation. You got to be ready for the moment. That way, whenever it happens, it doesn't catch you off guard, and it's just super cool. Like me growing up, I used to listen to Greg Papa, and today I said it on the radio. I used to have his touchdown call as my ringtone for like 2 to 3 years. And now to have people telling me, it's like, dude, I love it, and I love when they post your highlights and everything. I'm like, it's just surreal. And that was one of my favorite moments. The Chandler Jones touchdown was another favorite moment. Being able to call Devontae Adams' first touchdown at Allegiant Stadium, that was another great moment. It's just, as a Raider fan, of course, we wish the record was better than 6-11, but there's always parts in every game that tells a story of what's going on, and I've been lucky to voice a lot of those moments.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, when you say Greg Papa, like, everyone knows what that sounds like in their head as a Raiders fan. It's sad that he's no longer, but everyone knows what that sounds like. And I'm trying to run a lot here, so I'm going to play it one more time, only because I think there were audio issues and we could not hear what was happening there. So let's try this one more again.
Yep, still can't hear it.
I don't hear nothing. It feel like I can hear him though, because he's super pumped. No sound.
All right, I guess we still can't hear it. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure you.
But I think we get that vibe.
Technical difficulties.
They have
I think y'all can feel it. I think y'all can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I actually think the Raiders, like, nobody wants to see this face more than 5 seconds. But the Raiders, they've asked me to, like, hey, record yourself and send us the highlight, because we love to see your reaction and how you get hyped and how you're actually excited that the things are happening. And people tell me, it's like, dude, I can feel the excitement of your call when I listen to it. How does that happen? I'm like, dude, that's what I'm feeling at the moment. And I've, like, no disrespect, but my broadcast partner at the beginning, he would call the opponent's touchdowns almost the same way that he would call the Raider touchdowns. And I'm like, you're never going to hear me call a touchdown from any other team like I call a Raider touchdown. I'm like, no way.
Greg Popovich in you, man.
Yeah, right.
You got Greg Papa in you.
You got to be
I'm
your
like,
own
You definitely
Greg
need
Papa.
somebody
You
like
can't
Greg
go
Papa, man.
No, and you know what? I'm a huge fan of Jason Horowitz, the new Raiders play-by-play announcer in English. He's a great guy.
He does the jackpot dude.
No. That was Brent Musburger, who I know a lot of people didn't like, but I was a fan of as well because he's a legend. He's a guy that I want to be where he's at or where he's been someday in my career. I'm like, heck, if I'm able to get to 50 years old, I'll be happy. This guy, Brent Musburger, he was calling games at 80 something years old. And he's done everything in ESPN and CBS, NFL Today. He did everything. And that's why I know people, maybe it wasn't the style that they were used to in the past. And maybe that's why I would see all those negative comments. But I was like, hey, it's Brent freaking Musburger. I mean, he's a legend. Like for me, that I'm in the sports broadcasting industry, you'll never hear me you'll never hear me say a bad word about him. And I met him at Circa. I took a friend of mine. He had a job interview there, and I was just chilling at the sports book. And then I look up to my left. I'm like, oh, snap. There's Brent Musburger. He finished his show. I went over. I introduced myself, and nicest guy ever. Before his last game, I went into the booth, took a picture with him. Great dude. And then Lincoln Kennedy, you guys know Link. He's the man. I mean, he's great. I remember going to Oakland and hanging out with him out there at the tailgates too. And it's like now it's Lincoln and Horowitz, and they're doing a great job. This was year one, and I know they're going to keep building off of that and keep delivering to the Raider Nation a great product. And heads up, this was Jason Horowitz's first season working directly for a team. He's only going to get more comfortable, and his calls are going to keep getting more and more epic.
Yeah.
Well, I just, I like the way you announce the games. It just brings me a level higher to enjoy the games, even if they're down a little bit. And while they're playing, I'm like, you can't go wrong with that. Wait a minute, this game is awesome.
Right.
So you do have skills. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mother Moon. Made my day.
You are special. So we're going to get into some of what's going on as far as, how do we fix the losing season? Let's talk about that. What do you expect for next year? What do you have to tell us?
So I've always been a glass half full kind of guy. And I said it today on the radio. I'm like, I know a lot of people ain't going to agree with me. And you're going to be like, oh, this guy is kissing butt and shaking hands and trying to be like a company guy. And I'm like, hey, I say it as it is. If I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't say the opposite. This team played 13 one-possession games. They were close in pretty much every game except the losses against New Orleans and Kansas City. And the way I look at it is that we're closer to winning those games that we let go away than to getting whooped like we have for great parts of the last decade or 2 decades, where by the end of the first half, we were all like, all right, game's over. Yep. Let's just have fun, and we're going to have party at the parking lot once the game is over.
Once the game's over, back to the tailgate.
Yeah, exactly. In Oakland, I remember I used to stay like 90 minutes after the game partying with my friends. And it's like, hey, finish the experience. If the Raiders won on the field, made it even better. If they lost, well, let's go have a couple of beers to forget this loss.
Yeah.
And
we need those fireworks. We need some damn fireworks. We need to set some fireworks. I think was it in B lot or the lot right next to B lot? What's that? C lot, I think.
Where were the Bad Boys of Barbecue? Was it B lot? So I used to hang out with the Bad Boys of Barbecue, and they always had the fireworks after the game nearby there. So
yeah, so they were right behind us, La Familia family. Well, you know them well. So that was our tailgate there. Yeah, Bad Boys.
Yeah, with the RVs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they got
RV row first. You know how it was La Familia first. What is that? RV row. The first lineup. I know I saw you there many times. So yeah, it was always a party.
Yeah. So to answer your question, what does this team need to do to change what happened this season? Become a team with a killer instinct. A team that if they're up by 14 or 17 points, we don't care. We want to take care of business and score more and be like, hey, if you get mad that we're up by 30, sucks for you. Score more points. And that's what the Raiders need to do. Instead of being like up by 14 or 17 and be like, all right, let's run the ball. And it's like, no, if the air game is working, keep doing it. If the rush game is working, like in Pittsburgh, I couldn't understand why we abandoned the run game to go to the pass game in the game where it was 5 degrees. I'm like, I didn't understand it, but it happened. And what I'm saying, it's like this team is closer to being able to take a step forward than being back to where we were at. It's just frustrating that it happened in a season after the team made it to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. And in a season where you brought in Devontae Adams and he was an all-pro. And in a season where you had the leading rusher in the NFL. And in a season where Max Crosby had a record year. So it's frustrating, yes. It's frustrating, yes. But at the same time, I see more promise in this team than, for example, if you look over at the Houston Texans or the Chicago Bears, where you look at that team, those teams, and you're like, yeah, they're screwed for a couple of years.
Well, hopefully we are not.
Totally. Sorry, I don't know. There was a lot of confusion, I think, maybe just for me backstage, but I just want to circle back and address some of the things you had spoken on before. Yeah. Omar from B-Lot Crew, he was in B-Lot. I believe the fireworks went off on the other side. It was like, I think it was in the employee parking. And if you want to circle back to the Bad Boys of Barbecue, that was right behind our tailgate, Mother Moon and I's La Familia tailgaters, which was right behind in Motorhome Row, the furthest away from the Coliseum. And it sounds like you're far away, but you're the furthest away because you're the first one there. And that's where Kirk and the Bad Boys of Barbecue were. And like Rachel says here in the comments somewhere, I think she says La Familia too with that shot stick, and I'm totally drawing a blank right now. But Mother Moon, do you remember how many, or maybe Omar might know this as well, because he's basically part of La Familia as well. Do you remember how many there were?
I know Gaff, he approached 200, I think.
Yeah, no, it was like, I want to say in the 140s.
Well, yeah, but because I think the record was.
I was gonna say like 162 or 161 or something like that.
Yep.
Hey, that sounds like a challenge for the Vegas folks. You got to do a shot stick with 200 plus now.
And we got to bring.
Well, they did. I think one of the games last year they did bring out the shot stick. I don't think it went as long as we did in Oakland, but it hasn't been back since. Something happened. Maybe too much hassle with trying to transport the shot sticks, I think it is what it was. But yeah, hey, if they can live somewhere in Vegas, maybe that can happen. But yeah, the fireworks would always pop off.
Always.
I know I'm drawing so many blanks right now, but that would be the.
I remember there was like an antenna there by the parking lot.
Yeah, it was the employee parking lot that's in front of that was in front of the arena. It was G. That's what it was. I think it came out of G. It was like but anyway, I you guys are probably way past
win or lose. It was always a good time.
So my buddy, shout out to Bandido Juan Jorge. He used to show me like the spot. He was like, "This is the last spot where the cops come over to tell you to start wrapping up." Yes. So by the time that they make their third lap, it's already been like 90 minutes, or our ice chest is going to be empty, our grill's going to be empty. So come and hang out here. So that's where I used to go after the game and just chill with them.
Yeah, that was a good time for sure. Rachel Brown here, Mike Madrid, the Camacho brothers, Luis and Gilbert, and Chris, and then there's also, of course, as Omar said, Gaff, who would do the sound off, would do the count off, and then Mother Moon and I. Well, Mother Moon usually poured the booze. I'd usually walk around with the tip jar, and then we pop it off, and it was a good time for sure.
Yeah,
miss those days actually.
Man,
Robert
I miss
Jones
that.
says also we need a better tailgate experience. They need more space around the stadium. Man, I miss Oakland stadium tailgating. I don't know if they need to clear more space. I think we just need to fill the space up inside. Oh yeah, no. Are you talking about the illegal fireworks or the professional ones? Oh, we're talking about. I thought y'all were talking about the illegal ones that popped off.
Hey, win or lose, them damn fireworks would go off.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought they were all illegal.
Those are the ones people just popped off out of their trunk.
So I'll send out a shout out to my Uncle George, my Tío Panda in East LA. He would always have leftover fireworks from 4th of July, and those were his Raider fireworks. After every Raider win, he would go outside the house, pop two, fireworks in September because the Raiders won, or in October, and people's like, oh, it's the crazy guy that pops fireworks when the Raiders win. I'm like, hey, it's a tradition.
Great.
And yeah, Rach, those definitely weren't legal.
So again, I lost the Mother Moon. You could steer this a little bit if you want. Like I said, I lost a little connection and whatnot, trying to operate behind the scenes. But I know we started a little bit about going on about a recap of the season. I think the question was, again, forgive me if I missed it, is how, in your opinion, how do we fix it?
Yeah, and I was telling Mother Moon, I'm like, this team, I think, is closer to being able to fix those issues than to falling back and becoming a team that is picking in the top 3, top 5, and being in a bad situation. There's small kinks. I mean, obviously, the offensive line is a point that the team needs to touch on, and in a very big way this offseason. The defense, you got to bring pieces to supplement Max Crosby. It can't be the Max Crosby show because he's the only piece on that defensive line.
Right.
And the reality, too, is you look over at Nate Hobbs and at Trayvon Merrick, they had a sophomore slump. But at the same time, they were playing in a new system. They're guys that are quality players, but that struggled to take a grasp at the new system. And I'll say this, Nate Hobbs, he was hurt. He was out more than a couple of weeks. I think it was 5 or 6 games that he missed. So it was tough for him. He tried his best. He did a good job, but he wasn't as good as in his rookie year. Now, the good thing is going into season 2 with Patrick Graham as their defensive coordinator, they would have been one season into that system. So they definitely have to have a better knowledge of it and be able to function in a better way. I would love to see Deron Harmon back. I liked what I saw from him this season. Amik Robertson, he has a lot of heart, a lot of fight in him. If he was 3 inches taller, I think he could be one of the best defensive backs in the NFL. But I like what I've seen from him. And heck, you would see him go against tall guys, and he didn't care. He's like those Chihuahuas going against the Bulldog. They ain't scared. They're going to go and they're going to fight him. And that's what I like about the Wolf, Amik Robertson. So there's pieces that you can work with, but I think there's more holes in this defense than there is significant players that can change games. So the GM and the front office, Dave Ziegler, him leading the charge, they got plenty of draft picks. They got plenty of cap space, and I feel this being their full off season, their first full off season with the team, with the scouting crew, with everybody, they can do a good job to build this team, and they're obligated to do it now because this is their team now. This is their second draft class. This is their first full off season, and they know what's missing with this team after being with the team for a year.
Well, as you say that missing with the team, what's the rumor about the quarterback? I mean, definitely need to get someone in that position.
Yeah, that's the big question mark right now. What's going to happen? And obviously there's names that have been linked to this coaching staff that the Raiders have led by Josh McDaniels that Raider Nation isn't very fond of a guy like Tom Brady. You look over at a Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's hurt more than half of the time that he's in the regular season. And it's like, all right, do you want to go with one of those guys that knows the system very well, or do you prefer drafting a guy and seeing, heck, Derek Carr, he's a great quarterback. He's a very good quarterback in the NFL, in the premier position in the league. And if a guy like him, who I'll say the rumors with Kyler Murray, and you hear that he plays video games 5 hours a day or 4 hours a day. Derek Carr is a guy that once the game ends, he's already studying what happened in the game. And then the next day he's studying his opponent. And sometimes he gets a week head start to get ready. So his preparation, his dedication, his commitment to it has never been questioned. If a guy like him struggled to get a grasp of the complicated or complex, the advanced offense that Josh McDaniels is trying to put in the game, I can only imagine it can't be very easy if you bring a rookie in and you want his first experience in the NFL to be with this complex offense. So it's just interesting. Do you go with a veteran to be a bridge for a young guy? And there's tons of names. The reality is we won't actually know for real what's going to happen until at least February 15th, when we know if Carr is cut or traded. And then after that, then you can start making more educated speculations until free agency starts in March and the draft comes in April. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Silver and Black, that's for sure.
Any crazy predictions?
Can I make a prediction?
What do you think? What's your way too early predictions of what we're going to do?
No, I can. Omar, I can give you a guarantee.
Oh, I like it.
Oh.
Right.
I'm going to be rooting and supporting whoever the quarterback for the Raiders is. That's the guarantee I can give you.
As we all will be.
I've seen a revolving door in that position from Rich Gannon to Derek Carr.
And that's the only thing that has me scared is that, my philosophy is if you're going to get rid of Carr, have somebody better, and to now have a question mark, I hope we don't go back to the QB carousel. So,
Here's the thing, Omar. I think we all agree that Carr wasn't the problem. But at the same time, I think pretty much everybody can agree he wasn't the solution. He wasn't going to be that game changer for the Raiders like he potentially could have been in 2016 before the injury. If he had been healthy, I think everybody would have given the Raiders a lot of chances to make it to the Super Bowl in 2016. Since then, unfortunately, we haven't seen him in that level. He's been consistent in some stats and being able to surpass them. But at the same time, you look at his games, and it was a roller coaster. There were 400-yard games, then there were 200-yard games, and it was up and down. And 3 touchdown games, 0 touchdown games. 2 touchdown games, 0 touchdown games. So, I think it was the coaching staff made the decision, and we as Raider Nation, we could have an opinion, but at the end of the day, the guys that make the decision get paid a lot of money to make them, and they've been involved in the sports way more time. And I like to say they know a little bit more than we do.
Just a little bit. Well, I wasn't the only one on the roller coaster.
Well, then, like I've said in previous shows, I just hope that the Raiders have a plan. And they decided to bench Carr, and not only demote him, but basically, fire him. And that's a debate whether he walked away or he got fired, whatever. That's neither here nor there. My point being, I'm hoping that the Raiders have a plan and they know what they intend to do to fill that spot, because that's most important, right? That's obviously probably the most important position on the team. And I want to ask you this, Harry, because Omar and I had this discussion on our show last week. Omar, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were seeing this year now because of the situation that it's a rebuild. I don't necessarily see it as a rebuild, but what's your take on that?
Nah, rebuild I think would be like imploding this team and trading away Crosby, trading away Waller, trading away Renfro, and just getting as much as you can from other teams, be it in young assets or being able to get draft picks for this upcoming draft or the future. That's what I would see as a rebuild. I just see this team as this past season, it was like a mulligan for Josh McDaniels. And like I said, there were a lot of close games, including some games that were very winnable by the way that they were ahead and they weren't able to take those leads. There was frustration between the team. Of course there was, just like there was with the fans. And now I'm thinking I know they have to win this year. They have to look good. There won't be a margin of error to be like, we can go 6-11 again this year. It's like, no, you have to go out and you got to do your job. And it can't be a reconstruction or a rebuild, because if you go that route, I don't think that people would have their jobs safe within the building. So they have to win. They have to look good. And this Raider coaching staff, they got good pieces. Now you got to complement them and be able to have not only just a good core. No, you got to have a good team, and not only the starters, but the backups and their backups and the practice squad. Have a team that is loaded for whenever you have to use that next man up mentality. You're not just saying, well, this is the next guy up, we hope he does well. It's like, no, the guy behind him, he's going to be able to come in and do the job. Look at the situation, Spicy, with the linebackers. Like, they were going down like flies. Divine Diablo, He missed more than half the season. Denzel Perryman got injured towards the end. Darian Butler, Blake Martinez retired. Jayon Brown, who they brought in as a free agent. I just named 5 guys. So they were playing. They were playing with guys that they signed from pretty much the street as free agents in week 17 and 18. So it's the NFL. There's going to be injuries. You got to be ready to deal with them.
So I agree with you. Omar, do you want to respond to that? Because I did bring you into the discussion earlier.
No, I mean, when you change out the quarterback, when you need a lot on your defense and your line, like I say, the line started getting a little bit better, but we know we still have some question marks at right tackle. We still have a question mark at guard because, Barnes wasn't doing that well. I still, like I said, the big thing for me is changing out the quarterback. I mean, that is such a pivotal piece that I hope you're right. And I hope that changing out the quarterback won't be as significant as I think it is, because if we don't get someone that can play as well as Carr, we want better. Josh McDaniels hopefully did this to get better, but if he doesn't, which is a crapshoot until we have somebody in place and we see they do better, that's why I say, that's why I look at this as, hey, a rebuild. The contract they gave Carr did not say that they were going to bench him at the end of the season. So, like I say, I want us to win. So, hey, I'm just like, whatever you're going to do it well, because we know for year 2, Josh McDaniels is going to be, he's got a very short rope. So,
hey, Omar, I'll say this. What did we expect realistically before the Week 17 game against the Niners when we found out Jarrett Stidham was going to be playing against the best defense? I was like, hey, hopefully we don't get whooped. Hopefully we don't get spanked on our field by a team that's going to have majority of the fans in the stadium. And right. I was shocked on that opening drive. I'm like, what am I seeing? This guy is going out there throwing bullets, hitting his guys, running with the ball. I'm like, okay, he understands the system clearly a little bit more, and he's utilizing it in his favor. The thing was, there was no video of him before that game as a starter, only in cleanup duties. So once the Chiefs had a little bit more of tape to be able to analyze him, they saw a little bit more tendencies they were able to take advantage of. But I was like, all right, we saw a little preview of what a guy that understands the system can do on the field. So it breaks my heart. I'll say it. I'm like, Tom Brady, I've always had a negative connotation of him, and I'm like, that's a guy that I've grown to not like because I'm a Raider fan. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, if it's Brady, if it's Garoppolo, if it's Johnny Manziel, whoever it is, I'm gonna be wishing him the best and hoping he can take the Raider to the promised land.
How about Uncle Rico? Uncle Rico.
I'm gonna cheer, but I'll be squinting. If it's Tom Brady, I'm going to be squinting like, oh, go Raiders, but it's going to hurt a little bit. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? It's going to hurt just a tad bit. I hope it's not. I hope he retires. You know what I mean? I really, really do. I just hope he retires, take that off the board, and, whatever else we do just works.
So that's the same thing with Carr. I would always call him the Enigma because half of the Raider Nation loved him. The other half disliked him a lot. And it's like, hey, Tom Brady, I think that he's universally unliked by the Raider Nation. But at the same time, can you imagine if he comes in and he starts winning and puts this team on his back and gets the results and the Raiders are looking good on the field? It would be hard to be like, nah, but he's still Tom Brady. I don't like him. I'm like, hey, if he puts on the silver and black and he gives it his all and gives the team results, I mean, we don't have a voice where we could be like, nah, I'm going to sit this one out because of Brady.
Right. And can I ask you this, Harry, and maybe you have a little more insight as part of the media, because we've had, we not a collective, we as Raider Nation have been in this bubble or not even a bubble, like this tornado, if you will, of Brady talk. Okay. Can I ask you, is this just like, where did this come from? Is this just fans talking? Is there actual merit behind it? Like, is this something that could potentially happen? Like, where does this? Why is it such a heavy conversation? Brady Raiders. Do you know?
Because it makes sense. That's why. When you look
Oh
at
wow.
Josh McDaniel, no. I'm saying that it makes sense because Josh McDaniels was coaching him when Josh won his 6 Super Bowls. When Brady won Super Bowls in New England, Josh McDaniels was there, and he was his offensive coordinator, I think, for 4 of those Super Bowl championship wins, and he has been with him for over a decade. And when you talk about New England, Bill Belichick, he's the mastermind behind the defense. Josh McDaniels left New England this season, and look at the mess that team was on offense. Mac Jones couldn't do anything. When last year, Mac Jones took Josh McDaniels' offense, they ended up with a winning record, and they made it to the playoffs, and Mac Jones was in the Pro Bowl because he was considered one of the best quarterbacks in the season. This year, he took a big step back. It was a regression year for him because there was no control on the offense, and that's what I'm saying. Belichick, he's in charge of the defense. On offense, he would just hand the reins over to Josh McDaniels, and he knew that McDaniels was going to take care of business that way. And now, if you're able to bring Brady in with Josh McDaniels, it just makes sense that they're going to be able to take care of business. So we will see. It's going to be a very interesting off season, and I can say it's like this rumor definitely has legs. It's not just it makes sense. It's definitely like the front office, they're doing their homework, and Brady is definitely an option.
I like the Mac Jones rumor.
That could be another option too.
That's my most favorite rumor of them all. The one that I pray for at night is that Mac Jones reunites with McDaniels as a Raider, because I do like Mac Jones. So
and he's a tad bit younger than Tom Brady, just a tad bit.
Just a tad bit, right? Just a tad bit. We probably can get a little bit more longevity out of him.
Hey, but you know what?
This isn't a bit exaggeration, but he's about half the age of Tom Brady. Tom Brady's about to turn 46, and Mac Jones is 24. So,
hey, did you see LeBron James and the Houston rookie the other night? Where the Houston rookie told him, "It's like, hey man, you played against my dad on your debut in the NBA," and it's like, what? How's it even possible? And
no, but you know what's crazy about that? It happened. It was, and again, I'm lapsing on names, but it was two of the Rockets. So that I think the dad's one of them, the one that you're speaking of, played for the Kings, but there was another player that also his dad debuted with him, and then there was a meme that came out that LeBron has now played against, like, don't quote me on this, 8 to 10 father-son duos throughout his career.
That's great.
Obviously not together.
Wow.
And obviously the NFL is different because you got to be 3 years in college, so that takes away like your opportunity of just leaving college as a freshman and going into the NBA at 19 years old. But how many times have we seen on TV players go to Tom Brady after a game and ask him to sign a football or ask him to sign something because it's like part of the NFL. It's like, hey, Tom Brady, they grew up watching him and now they get to play against him. I mean, there was a part of me that actually thought it was hilarious that one of the San Francisco players went over and got the ball signed by Brady that he intercepted. And he's like, can you sign this ball, please? And I'm like, bro, that's the ball that I'm like, you intercepted that ball.
He did it. I think he did it, right?
Yeah, and then this past game, one of Brady's teammates caught his last pass thrown as a Patriot, and it was an interception, and he made him sign my last pass as a Patriot and then signed it, Tom Brady. And it was that ball. Wow. So it's like Tom Brady, I mean, I hate to say it, he's an icon in the NFL, and that started off of the Tuck rule and him being able to stay in the playoffs after that. But
can I just say, this is probably an unpopular opinion because that's all I seem to have, but we all hate the Tuck rule for sure. But however, we cannot blame like this whole Brady referee, they had his back, there was a fixed game, blah blah blah, all this stuff on that, because at that point Brady was nothing more than a backup quarterback. he didn't have the protection behind him that we are grown to know for superstars to have really in any league, whether it's the NBA or whatever, that the officials will call things differently. So even though we all freaking hate the tuck rule, and I think we can all agree with that, at that time, Brady was not an influence on that call.
Yeah. I'll say this though.
That was from them calls from New York.
I'll say this though. I won't be complaining if the Raiders get a couple of calls if Brady's on the roster. I'll be like, hey, all those years of being on the wrong side, I'll take a couple of calls on the good side.
Hey, that might give the rest some fits. You know what I mean? Because they ain't gonna know what to do.
Wait a minute. Wait, should I throw it or not?
I can't call that against him, but I'm supposed to call shit against the Raiders. They ain't gonna know what to do. That might be too confusing.
Exactly.
Listen, I know we're over our time here by 5 minutes, and we're happy to stay on. We usually actually stay on for an extra quarter. Harry, if you have 10 more minutes, but it looks like the chat's already going out for us in the Raiders way. But yeah, let's keep going then. If anyone has to go, of course you're free to go. I want to bring attention to our friends over at Raider Nation, Arizona Raider Nation Media. He says TB12 will make Waller have a career year if Waller can stay on the field. Harry, do you want to comment on that?
Well, first off, shout out to, I don't know if it's Jay or if it's another one of my brothers from out there from Arizona, but shout out to all the crew out there in Arizona, always doing a great job, and also supporting La Nacion Raider.
Drink. I've been waiting for somebody to say that.
Yeah, I was like, Mother Moon, I see you with the wine right there. And you're like, I want to get some drinks.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the tight ends that Tom Brady was able to get paid in New England. And, of course, Gronk, one of them. The other one we won't name. But he's been able to get production out of that position. And what's the other position that he has been able to make a premier one in his teams? The slot receiver. And the Raiders have Hunter Renfrow. So if he's able to take advantage of those two weapons, and then you add Davante Adams, when was the last time that Tom Brady had a weapon like Davante Adams? You got to go back to Randy Moss when the Raiders traded him to the Patriots. And what did Randy Moss do in New England? He had a career year. He was part of that team that was one win away from perfection, and that fortunately they lost the Super Bowl against the Giants. But if you're able to do something similar, hey, there you go. Shout out to Jerry. I knew it was going to be Jerry. If the Raiders are able to, well, if Brady comes to the Raiders and he's able to take advantage of the weapons that he has, and you know what? We haven't even mentioned Josh Jacobs. So that could be a big attraction for Tom Brady. Be like, hey, we already got these pieces in place. Take a discount and we'll get you an offensive line too.
I mean, he already is on discount. I think he only got paid $25 million. I mean, in comparison to what some of these other guys are getting, that is a discount. I mean, now my question is, will he, he's declining. What Tom Brady are we going to get? Number one, it's Tom Brady. Is the Raiders going to be the team that killed Tom Brady?
Yeah, no, and the thing is, you look at Tom Brady's stats, and heck, I think this year he ended up, 4,694, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The year before that, 5,316, 43 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And, I mean, they're numbers that sometimes you only get in Madden. And that if Justin Herbert gets with the Chargers, you're like, oh, my God, you're drooling over them. But because it's Tom Brady, everybody's like, yeah, but that's what he does. If he can come to the Raiders and get 4,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, I mean, I got to check Derek Carr's stats because it was up and down for him.
Yeah, I'm sure someone in here will know that. And an interesting point to that is because Tampa Bay had an awful running game, right? So he was so they were forced to throw a lot. As we know, Josh Jacobs is arguably the best or one of the best running backs in the game. And I think he's going to stay. So if you can get a quarterback that can mix up the throw with having a running game, which Tampa Bay did not, that's a huge I think it was Jerry that said, mixed in with the tight end, the slot receiver. I think probably Renfrow will play, and then obviously the wide receiver in Davante Adams. That's a ton of weapons. I think the issue is if you're going to bring in somebody that is older, that can't move, that's not that mobile, the O-line really has to step up.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So then you're looking at getting a bookend for Mad Max, which we thought Chandler Jones would be, which unfortunately, and I don't think he's really been. Of course, he's come up in big plays, like the highlight we saw with you calling. But then you really need a bookend for Mad Max, and you really got to tighten up that O line. And then the offense, really, really, even in Derek Carr's defense, then the offense can really produce at that point. I mean, tell me your thoughts. I mean, maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Don't forget about the defense. Tom Brady has always had a great defense. I mean, that Patriot defense were at worst somewhere in the mid-teens or something like that those years. So, I mean, he had a defense that didn't put him in bad position. So, and we know we got to do some work. We got to get some defensive tackles in the middle. I think as you were earlier talking about our corners, that'll definitely help the corners because they're not out there, you know what I mean, pursuing receivers all day because we're getting some pressure and making quarterbacks have to throw a lot faster. So, I mean, I think for any quarterback, including Tom Brady, I think a lot of their success is going to be heavily weighted on how much improvement we get on that defense. So,
yeah, defense and offensive line. I think that's the key components right now in the offseason. Of course, besides the quarterback that you definitely got to bring in. But it's the same situation as with Derek Carr. People are saying it's like if he accepts a trade, it's going to be to an ideal situation, to a team that's just missing a quarterback to take them to the next level. And you look over at a team like the New York Jets, or you look over at a team. I like the Indianapolis Colts personally. I like the pieces that they have on defense. And I think having Jonathan Taylor healthy and being able to add potentially one more wide receiver to that room, if you add Derek Carr as a quarterback, they can become the team that they've had the potential to be. So there are options, and Tom Brady, that was what he saw in Tampa Bay when he left New England. He was able to say, they got a great defense. They got Mike Evans on that team. They got a good offensive line. You know what? That's the spot I want to go to. And he did it. And just to mention it, so Tom Brady had 25 touchdowns this year. In his 9-year career, Derek Carr surpassed 25 touchdowns only 3 times. So, I mean, 25 isn't as amazing as the 43 touchdowns he had last season, talking about 2021. But at the same time, 25 isn't just, it wasn't as good as the season. It wasn't as good of a season in his standards, but for other quarterbacks, they would take it in a heartbeat.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I agree with the Raider critique here. He was kind of saying a little bit what I was saying, but he said it in a way more comical way. Better build that line because Brady with the cane can't run that fast. I mean, basically.
Oh my goodness, yes. My goodness.
Yeah,
yes.
so it's gonna be an interesting offseason for sure. We'd love to have you more often to talk about what's going on throughout the season. But I'm curious. We'll change gears just a little bit here before we wrap. I'm curious what your memorabilia behind you, does it have a meaning? I see Lopez versus Lopez. I see Mad Max back there. It looks like we got Cliff Branch.
So I used to have some replica Super Bowl rings right there that got stolen 2 days ago. But yeah, no, it's a crazy story. I'll tell you guys about it some other day. So that's Crosby from the League of Bandits signing he had in the last game in Oakland in 2019. He signed that. That football, it's actually Vikings players. I got Anthony Barr when he was in UCLA. Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins at the Pro Bowl. That's a Jackie Robinson pop. It's just stuff that I put up for when I do my podcast. I was like, I just don't want a white wall behind me. So that ball I got signed by a lot of the players in the Pro Bowl last year. Cliff Branch, an autograph I got by him in Oakland at the Raider Image. Some pictures with the Raiderettes. I mean, to be honest, this is just like basic stuff for my background. My best memorabilia, I have it in my storage unit, which I got to make sure I always make the payment. That way I don't lose it. I got tons of autographs, tons of pictures. And that's something that as a fan, like I know there's fans that sell their memorabilia. I don't. I keep everything. And it's part of like the memories. Each autograph has a story behind it. And being able to say that I met Crosby when he was finishing his rookie year. And that picture is actually from a game that I attended when the Raiders beat the Bengals at the Coliseum in 2019 and Crosby had 4 sacks. Like, that's him with the 4 up, and he signed that picture.
Oh, nice.
So,
that's nice.
So it's like everything.
Photo, you know?
Sorry? Who took it?
Took the photo? Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know. I found it online and I printed it at Walgreens and got it signed, and I'm like, hey, bam. I'm like, I'll have it right there. But the Raiders, there's always been a lot of great.
And the Lopez versus Lopez, are you just a fan? Is that, or is there some affiliation there?
Oh, that's my boy, George Lopez. I got to meet him out in El Paso back in 2014, I want to say, and we bonded over being Dodger fans because I was wearing a Dodger hat. So, quick story: I bought an autographed book because I didn't know if I was going to get to meet him or not. And I posted on Twitter, and then he starts following me and he DMs me. He's like, hey, man, come backstage. I want to meet you. I'm like, holy crap. I go to the side of the stage and I tell security, I'm like, yo, so George Lopez DM'd me that he wants me, and they're just looking at me like, yeah, right. And then his manager comes over. He's like, you Harry? Yeah. He takes me back, and he's like, hey, let's just make it quick because we're running against time. I'm like, all right. He sees my Dodger hat, and he's like, hey, are you a Dodger fan? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually a season ticket holder. He's like, no way, I am too. We talked about Dodgers baseball for like 30 minutes. And then I go to LA, and we're at the same game, and he's like, hey, are you by yourself? I'm like, yeah. All right, I'm going to send you a ticket. Come downstairs. Front row.
Oh,
I'm like,
damn, wow.
What the hell? So he's a super cool dude. Every time he's in Vegas, I'll go out and support his shows. And now he has that TV show. I got that poster at the last show he had at the Luxor last year. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to put it up there. You support people that support you. He's always been a great dude.
Latino love.
Love that. Support people that support you. Before we go out, let's just go down the line here. We'll start with Cold Raider and work our way down. Any last comments or questions that you want to say to our friend here? Cold Raider, we'll start with you.
Good to meet you, man. Can't wait to see you in person, man. So, have some fun, and create some more memories, man. Keep this nation shit going, man.
It's an honor, man. And you guys are awesome. I've watched your shows, so like I said, I know of you guys. Cold and Omar. I've been lucky enough to meet Spicy and Mother Moon, but I appreciate that. And yes, hopefully next year you're out here in Vegas and we can grab a cold one.
Damn right.
Yeah, definitely. Mother Moon, any party words for a lot of nation? I just want to sit in that way so I can take a little drink. Any party words?
Well, party words. But I have a question. I hope it doesn't take up too much time. Someone once said that the Las Vegas was trying to bring in a different crowd to bring in the money, and so I'm wondering what is your vibe on that? It's not our home field anymore.
So it's definitely been tough going into the games and seeing a lot of fans from the visiting team. It would happen very, very rarely in Oakland, and off the top of my mind, I remember Steelers fans going in huge amounts out there in Oakland, and even the Cowboys. I think it was the last game, the index card game. They had a lot of fans out there too.
Yeah, it was.
And I was there for that one. So I'm like, I look at the crowd. I'm like, damn, there's a lot of stars out here, and I don't like that. Now, unfortunately, in Vegas, that's what happens when you come to a destination city. That's what happens when it's a place where people aren't thinking. No disrespect to Oakland, because I love Oakland. I love going to the Bay and hanging out there. But people aren't thinking, let me go on Friday to Oakland to be there Friday, Saturday, go to a game on Sunday, and then fly back Monday. People weren't thinking that. They would plan to go to other games. Out here in Vegas, they're like, hey, you know what? I'll go to Vegas on Friday. I'll go to a show. I'll go to a nightclub on Friday. Saturday, I'll go do more stuff, enjoy my time there. Sunday, go to the game. Monday, fly back home. They'll make it a weekend. And unfortunately, not every PSL holder in the stadium is a Raider fan. And a lot of PSL holders smartly bought their PSLs to just sell them, which I don't like, but it's a smart investment because most of them already made their money back with it. So, yeah, it is sad, but at the same time, they're filling up the stadium, or if it's not filled up, every seat is sold. So they're making the money, and they're hopefully investing it in the right way.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, and then I just want to thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate your talent. And next time I'm out in Las Vegas, we'll get together and get a cold one as well.
Absolutely, Mother Moon. All love. You know that.
Yes, I know that. Thank you.
And
Salud.
Omar, any salud. Omar, any last thoughts, questions?
Hey, I
Chat
just
you
want
want
to
to
say
have with our friend here?
just thanks for joining us, man. Keep up the good work, and I'll definitely look forward to meeting you in person next season. Let's do this.
Absolutely. It's all love. It's by the Raider Nation, for the Raider Nation. And that's what I always say. It's like, hey, you know what? We do it for our own people, our friends, our family. And if you don't know a Raider, it's like, hey, eventually you will.
The only
Yeah,
nation.
oh yeah, for sure. If you don't know Raider, eventually you will. That should be their new slogan or something like that. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
All
hey,
right,
shout out to
yeah.
my Dodgers. I want it to be baseball season already because football season really ended for me with that game against the Chiefs. I'm like, hey, I can't wait for spring training and then March through August. The Dodgers are my safe haven before football season is back.
Well, there you go. I just found that online. There's your shout out from your Dodgers right there. There you have it.
That's so cool.
That's old
Isn't
school.
it?
That was like at a season ticket holder event that they were putting every name up on the scoreboard. And that's how you know it's an old picture because now the new scoreboards, they're incredible. Right. They're all in color and they put up. Yeah, that was at least 2000.
Like a little bit better.
Oh, I love them. I love Dodger Stadium. It's my favorite stadium.
Robert
I love going
says he wants to meet you next season. He's always
he wants to meet everybody.
He wants to meet everybody.
He was in Tennessee. He was out in Tennessee. So, yeah, BJ, we're going to definitely kick it a lot next season.
Robert Jones.
And you know what? I'm keeping my fingers crossed that soon the Spanish broadcast is also traveling to the road games because I want to meet Raider fans out on the road too because I've heard the parties out there are crazy. So hopefully it's someday in the future.
Let's stick together. We can make it happen.
I love it. We could talk about this offline, but hey, a documentary series just came to mind. If you want a filmmaker following you, I'm your girl. You know what I mean? Like, let's awesome. Make it happen. I think that would be super dope. But thanks everybody for watching. We went into an extra quarter here, of course, but we went in and we always won. You're welcome on the show anytime, my friend. Thank you for being you. Thank you for your talent. Thank you for being a friend of Raider Nation and really representing what Raider Nation, I think, is all about. We appreciate you.
Sorry, Spicy. I got to correct you. I'm not a friend of the Raider Nation. I am a member of the Raider Nation. I am one of you. I am one of you. I'm like, I got pictures. Like my first game was at Mount Davis out there in Oakland. My last game was in the Black Hole. I'm like, somebody told me on social media the other day, it's like, dude, you used to be a fan. Now you have fans. I'm like, I don't have fans, man. I got brothers and sisters out here in the Raider Nation. I'm like, people think that I go out to the tailgates just to like politic or something. I'm like, nah, man, I go out there because I got friends that I want to hang out with. And media members, they're like, you go out to the tailgate? I'm like, hell yeah. This last game. Oh, sorry. I know we're in overtime.
We're good.
Folks from Mexico, do you know what carnitas are?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
So friends from the city that my parents are from and where I lived for 12 years, Torreon, they came out to Vegas. They did carnitas on Friday night, and they took them to the stadium. They did a lonche for me, a torta. And then my friends are like, dude, they're not going to let you take that into the stadium. I'm like, bro, I got this. I took it in. I didn't eat the food that they have, the fancy food that they have up there for the media. I was eating a torta right there between commercial breaks.
Real.
I was taking bites. I'm like, that's what I like. Or like last week when I was watching Vegas Ralph, my brother. Every time I'm at the tailgate and he has a carne asada ready, you know I'm gonna munch on that.
Yes.
I'm like, that's better than having the breakfast. No disrespect to the folks at the stadium, and it's nice food. But I'm like, I prefer eating out at the tailgate than inside the stadium.
That's right, man. That's the good stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, we love it. Thank you.
So no friend of the Raider Nation. I am a member of the Raider Nation. I am one of you.
I did not mean that as an insult. I did not mean that
I know.
Insult.
You know it's all love.
Totally.
Wow.
So we thank you so much. You've been so much fun. We can have you on for so much longer, and we hope that maybe we can have you back on again during the off season, because there's going to be a lot to talk about. Of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to his Instagram, to his YouTube. You see it there. Oh, well, his Instagram is not this. This is what you have on the screen is your Instagram,
So
not your YouTube, correct?
So that is everything. Fortunately, I was able to get La Nacion Raider, cheers, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube.
Okay.
I got it everywhere.
Cheers.
So you guys can check
You
that out.
You did that early, so my apologies. But on Facebook, I see it as your name, so that's why I was a bit confused. But follow him. So also subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Light that torch, hit that like button. Thank you for being on. We appreciate you, my friend. And you know how we do it, Raider Nation, because we go out one way.
One way.
And only one way.
One way.
We got maybe like 4 more minutes. So if you have a final question, let us know what it is. Let us know what it is.
Hey.
All right. Ask Estrada. I don't know, Anthony, if you're still there. If you're still there, yes, please ask the question. If not, I'm sorry I didn't see your comment until now. There was a lot of comments coming through, so thank you all for your questions. We'll defer to this question just for a minute, and it's kind of funny because you were talking about carnitas. Somebody needs to sell some of these cats in Tejas how to cook some authentic carnitas. This Tex-Mex is just not that. Okay, well, I don't know. I kind of like Tex-Mex, but I feel where you're coming from as well. I feel where you're coming from.
I'll say this. So I used to live in the other Texas, in El Paso, Texas, and that's border with Mexico. Right there, Mexican food right there is real good Mexican food. And the carnitas, really, really good too. Carnitas Querétaro. I used to like going to that place, but the flautas, everything in the border. So that's why I call the other Texas, because when I moved there, I was like, oh, awesome. I'll be able to go watch the Dodgers in Dallas. I'll be able to go watch them in Houston. And then I saw the distance. I'm like, well, it's as far from El Paso, Dallas, and Houston are than LA. So I'll just go to LA instead.
It all works out.
Texas is so damn big.
It's huge. I've actually driven this country, and the mile markers, as you know, that effect when you're doing film and you like move forward but zoom out and it looks like the room expands. That's driving through Texas. The mile markers get longer and longer and longer. But I don't think Anthony's still here. But thank you all for watching. Harry, thank you so much. We appreciate you, my friend. Have a good night.
Oh, you know it's all love.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
For
Thank
sure.
you. Have a good
Much love
night.
and respect.